There is a memory you carry. You've had it for years, maybe decades. You know exactly how it feels to be inside it. The light, the voices, the weight of the moment. You would swear on your life that it happened exactly the way you remember it. Here is what neuroscience has spent the last 30 years trying to tell you. That memory is not what you think it is. It is not a file, not a photograph, not a video your brain recorded and stored safely on a shelf. It is something far stranger, far more alive. Every time you remember something, you are not replaying it. You are rebuilding it. From scratch, with whatever materials your brain has on hand today. And in the process of remembering it, you change it. To understand why this happens, you need to understand what a memory actually is at the biological level. When you experience something, a conversation, a loss, a moment of joy, your brain doesn't record it whole. It encodes it as a pattern, a specific constellation of neurons that fire together in response to what just happened. The neuroscientist Donald Hebb described this in 1949 with a phrase that became foundational to modern neuroscience. Neurons that fire together, wire together. The connections between those neurons, called synapses, physically strengthen. Proteins are synthesized. The circuit becomes more durable. This process is called memory consolidation. For most of the 20th century, scientists believed that once a memory was consolidated, it was stable, fixed, locked into the architecture of the brain like concrete that had cured. Then in 2000, a neuroscientist named Karim Nader changed everything. Working in Joseph Ledoux's lab at NYU, Nader was studying fear memories in rats. He conditioned them to associate a sound with a mild electric shock, classic Pavlovian fear learning. Then he did something no one had thought to do before. After the fear memory was consolidated, after it was supposedly locked in, he triggered the rats to recall it. He played them the sound. He made them remember. And then, while the memory was active, while it was being recalled, he injected a protein synthesis inhibitor directly into the amygdala, a drug that stops the brain from building the proteins needed to stabilize neural connections. The result was extraordinary. The fear memory was gone. Not suppressed, not weakened, gone. If the drug was given without triggering recall first, the memory survived. If recall happened without the drug, the memory survived. But when recall and the drug were combined, the memory was erased. What Nader had discovered was this. The act of remembering destabilizes the memory. It takes the neural pattern offline, makes it temporarily fragile, malleable, vulnerable. And then the brain must restabilize it, rebuild it, reconsolidate it. This is what scientists now call memory reconsolidation. Every time you recall a memory, there is a window, roughly 5 to 6 hours, during which that memory exists in an unstable state. The synaptic connections that hold it together have loosened. The proteins that were locking the circuit in place have broken down. For a brief period, the memory is wet clay. And during that window, everything happening in your brain right now can bleed into it. Your current mood, your current beliefs, the conversation you had this morning, the argument you haven't finished, the version of yourself you've become since then. All of it can shape what gets written back. This is why eyewitness testimony is so unreliable. It's not that people are lying, it's that every time they rehearse what they saw, every time a detective asks them to walk through it again, every time they replay it before bed, the memory reconsolidates with new information woven in. The pioneering memory researcher Elizabeth Loftus demonstrated this repeatedly across decades of study. In one of her most cited experiments, subjects who witnessed a car accident were later asked either, how fast were the cars going when they hit each other? Or, how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other? One word: smashed versus hit. The subjects who heard the word smashed later remembered seeing broken glass at the scene. There was no broken glass. The question itself had edited the memory. Now hold on to that idea, because this is where it stops being just neuroscience and starts being something more personal. Think about the memories that are most central to your identity. The origin stories you tell about yourself. The moments that explain why you are the way you are. The wounds that justify your defenses. The victories that prove your worth. How many times have you recalled those memories? Dozens, hundreds, maybe so many times you've lost count. Each recall was a reconsolidation. Each reconsolidation was a rewrite. The memory you have now of the most important moment of your life is not the memory you had 1 year after it happened. It is not the memory you had 5 years after. It has been quietly, continuously edited by every version of you that has revisited it since. Neuroscientist Daniela Schiller at Mount Sinai has called this the writing and rewriting of memory. Her research shows that the emotional intensity of a memory can be dampened or amplified through reconsolidation. That fear responses tied to specific memories can be reduced simply by introducing new, calm information during the reconsolidation window. This is not a flaw in the system. It is, researchers now believe, the point. A memory that could never change would be a memory that could never update to reflect reality. You would be forever reacting to the world as it was, not as it is. Reconsolidation is how the brain keeps memory relevant, how it stays adaptive, how it lets you grow. But the same mechanism that allows healing also allows harm. When a painful memory is recalled repeatedly in a state of distress, when it is revisited in the dark, late at night, under stress, without resolution, it reconsolidates with that distress baked in. It comes back stronger, more emotionally loaded than before, more detailed in the ways that hurt, more blurred in the ways that might bring context. This is the neuroscience of rumination. Every time you replay a painful memory in a state of anxiety or shame, you are not just remembering it. You are reinforcing it, deepening the groove, making it more central to the architecture of who you think you are. Research into PTSD makes this especially visible. In post-traumatic stress, the normal reconsolidation process breaks down. The traumatic memory fails to integrate new, safe information. It stays destabilized, perpetually reactivated, perpetually raw, as if the reconsolidation window never properly closed. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection system, stays hyperactive. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for context and regulation, struggles to assert control. The person is not living in the present, biologically, neurologically. They are partially still living in the moment of the trauma. Understanding reconsolidation has opened one of the most exciting frontiers in mental health treatment. If memories are malleable during the reconsolidation window, then that window is also an opportunity. Therapies like EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, are now understood to work, at least in part, by activating a traumatic memory and then introducing bilateral sensory stimulation during the reconsolidation window. The distress gets written out. The memory remains, but its emotional charge diminishes. Researchers are also exploring pharmacological approaches. Propranolol, a beta blocker, has shown promise in studies at weakening the emotional intensity of fear memories when administered during active recall. The memory of the event persists. The visceral, body-level terror attached to it can be reduced. The implications are profound, not just for PTSD, but for addiction, phobias, chronic anxiety. Any condition rooted in a memory the brain keeps reconsolidating in the wrong direction. So go back to that memory, the one you've been carrying. It is not a fixed thing. It never was. Every time you have returned to it, you have brought yourself with you. Every fear you had that year, every belief you'd formed by then, every story you needed it to confirm. and the memory absorbed all of it, quietly, without your permission. That is not a reason to distrust yourself. It is a reason to be curious about what you've been adding. The science tells us something both humbling and clarifying. You are not a fixed self, haunted by fixed events. You are an ongoing act of reconstruction, a brain continuously rewriting the past to make sense of the present. Which means the past is more yours than you thought. It changes when you change. The only question worth asking is, what are you writing into it? If this kind of thinking interests you, science told slowly, the way it deserves to be told, you know what to do. We'll see you in the next one.